Great.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Alan, thank you for being here.
Good to be here.
Good friend, good to
Nice
see
to
you. All right, you ready?
Sure.
This is going to be really
this.
hard. I'm a tough interviewer.
The only thing that's hard is everybody's like, we're on. It feels like we've been here for weeks, right? And but it's been great.
Yeah,
so.
Good. All right, let's jump in. So, tell me a little bit. Everyone is, of course, tracking NTIA's work these days. You have so much going on. But since we're at Mobile World Congress, tell me a little bit about what you all are doing to get out there, promote open architectures for 5G, O-RAN in particular. I know you're doing a lot, so.
We are doing a lot. And first of all, I'd say thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here with you, particularly a little bit about what is happening at NTIA. And I'll say it's great to be here and a little confession, this is actually my first Mobile World Congress. So I know, thank you. Everybody's been very welcoming. Yeah, so it's great to be here and a little overwhelming in all the right ways. Openness is a big thing for us, and I think if anything, the pandemic actually helped us all understand how fragile our supply chains can be and how important it is to make sure that we've got robust, resilient supply chains generally. And I can't think of a place where it's as important as it is in the wireless context. When you think about how our lives have been changed, how dependent we are today on these devices that we live with and that we use for so many things, and that so many people around the world use to stay connected. So in that context, we've been thinking about how can we make sure that we have more diverse, secure, resilient supply chains in the wireless technology space, and we really believe that openness and Open RAN are the key to making that happen. And it's not so different than what we've seen in other ecosystems. I'm an internet guy, and to see the level of innovation that's been made possible by standardization and open interfaces, we're excited about what's going to happen. And part of it will be, and I'd say my observations from the show are, that we were talking about this earlier, that people are very serious. This is a real thing that's going to happen around Open RAN, and that there's real innovation in new and exciting ways at all different layers of this stack that is just starting, and that's going to be really exciting.
That's excellent, thank you. Well, so talking that through with that in mind, I think many know that NTIA was recently provided $1.5 billion to actually be looking at this arena and to invest, to accelerate the adoption of these technologies. And so recently you did a request for comment, and I'm just wondering, was there any themes in that RFC that were particularly compelling to you, that you're tracking on, that you're interested in? So
we're very excited about this innovation fund, as we've been calling it, $1.5 billion. I think on some level, $1.5 billion is a lot of money. On another level, compared to the scale of deployment and the amount of investment, it's actually not money that's going to directly be able to meaningfully move the needle on deployment. What we really, in the sense of directly, so what we're really looking for and interested in, and this is what we've asked about, is how can we catalyze this movement, this industry, right? Where are the gaps? Where are the places where a small amount of government investment, where there's been where the market has not responded, how can we invest and do something that will actually move the needle and help move and like I say, catalyze things? We did this request for comments. We got about 90 comments. Grateful for those of you who submitted. Thank you. A couple of really interesting themes. I think there's a lot of commonality in some of the comments around both the promise, and I think we heard loud and clear excitement about the promise of Open RAN, but also the challenges, things like interoperability, security, efficiency, and making sure that we could tackle those challenges, and particularly thoughts about certification and testing, right? What could we do possibly to make sure that people who want to put this new equipment into their networks can feel confident that it's working as it says, that vendors can show carriers or other buyers that this is equipment that's actually going to work the way it says. So I think there's a lot of promise in those research areas, investigation, in the testing and certification, and those may be places where we're encouraged to, dive in first. And then we'll have a notice of funding, as we call it, that will go out this spring, I think we said. And this is a multi-year program, as it was constructed by Congress. I think one might imagine that in the first year, there'll be a smaller, we're standing this up quickly, it won't be a huge chunk of the money, but then we want to move very quickly to get funding out the door, because we feel like this is the moment. The next couple of years are critical, and this is the time for us to show up.
Excellent. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, since we are at MWC,
Right.
let's stay on that really mobile wireless lens. So there's a World Radio Conference coming up. I know you talked about this
I've heard
yesterday.
about it. Yes.
Exactly.
We're learning. Yes.
A need, talking about these global technologies, a need for some spectrum harmonization, obviously. So what is on your radar as you move towards the upcoming Dubai meeting? Anything yet really emerging?
It's still early. I'll say it's still early days. We're still working on developing our U.S. position, but top line is obviously this is incredibly important. And I was saying yesterday, I think on some level, the wireless it's an amazing success story of the last few decades, right? And that we've managed to, in just a few decades, connect billions of people, right? And it's easy for us to kind of glide through that, but it is, as a technologist, and I just can't help but feel the miracle of it, right? And you look at deployment in some of the developed countries, over 100% subscription rate, well over 100% subscription rates, right? In the United States, we do too. But there are a lot of countries where the numbers are much lower, as low as 12%. And that is a cause for concern, because people are relying. We need these connections, the wireless connection, to get people online, to get them connected to the modern economy. And I say all that because it is really, I think, I look at it as a deployment miracle that's been powered by standards and by harmonization around spectrum in recent years that have made it possible to deploy at scale and economically. And that is why WRC is so essential, so important, that we keep that momentum going, and that we find ways to actually, keep this miracle going and connect the next, billions of people. That's still the next billion, as Doreen Bogdan-Martin says. How are we going to get them online? And wireless is going to be such a key part of that. So we're all in on this, on the need to do it well. Within the U.S. government, we've just brought on Anna Gomez, who is another NTIA alumna, and a brilliant, very lucky choice for us. She's going to be leading our delegation work at the State Department right now, and ultimately will be leading us at WRC, so in Dubai. So that's going to be terrific, and so watch this space.
Well, that's actually a really good segue, because talking about NTIA, where you're going in billions,
right.
You also received
Yes.
$48 billion to also get out there to finally close the digital divide in
Right.
America. And you're working hard on Internet for All.
Yeah.
And so just with that conversation, where do you see wireless mobility emerging in that
Right.
context? Do you
Right.
see wireless playing a role?
Yes, absolutely. And I'll start by just saying, this is such a huge and essential project for us in the United States. We have been talking about the digital divide for over 25 years. One of our predecessors kind of popularized the term, an NTIA administrator, Larry Irving. But we finally now have been given the resources to do something really serious and structural about closing the digital divide in America. And that is a massive opportunity, and it doesn't come very often. We've got $50 billion under management in grants at NTIA. There's other big grant programs in the federal government. This is a once-in-a-generation kind of thing. And so we're taking it very seriously. It's kind of my other obsession of the moment. And wireless has got to play a part in this. We know it. We're actually quite interested in what's been happening with fixed wireless deployments in the U.S. It's actually kind of amazing to see the uptick there and what's happening in the market. That even in the last 6 months, the changes, and that's exciting. We are a fiber-forward administration. We're not, shy about saying that, but we know that in many, many states, wireless and satellite are going to play really big roles in making sure we connect everybody. It's the only way we're going to do it. So we're very open to that. We expect there to be a big role for that. And I really do feel that, I keep saying it's generational, but that there were generations before us that built big things, connected everybody with water and electricity, built the highway system in the US. These are the big projects we think about. And this is going to be like that. This is our generation's infrastructure moment. This is our moment to look back, to say that we've done what we needed to do to connect everybody with what they need to thrive in the modern digital economy. And I am confident we are going to look back 5 or 10 years from now, 10 years from now, it's going to take a while, but we're going to look back and say this was the moment we finally did that. So that's exciting to be part of, and this industry will be a huge piece of it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are just smoking over there.
We stand on the shoulder of giants, as I say, so yes.
Yeah, lots going on. Well, yes, I mean, so much. And so let's talk a little bit about some of the other things that NTIA is doing as well. I know that you just recently published your competition in the app environment report, for example. You're looking more at AI, you're looking more at privacy, you're looking at how emerging tech is impacting disparate communities. So what's next on that front?
So many things. Well, I mean, I think this is what happens when the network becomes a central part of people's lives. This is what we hoped for, that the internet would be this medium, the essential medium. So we serve as the president's principal advisor on telecommunications and information policy. And we are now deeply into these tough issues. I think in the US, one of the next big ones will be around privacy. I think it's long past the time for the U.S. to have a national privacy law, and so I think you will see the president signal this in his State of the Union address, a real desire to make progress there. We're doing work. I could talk about competition. We could talk about AI. I think that's going to be quite another area of investment. And internationally, I think continuing to carry forward the call for a commitment to open, free, secure, trusted networks is going to be big. And so we look at things like the Declaration for the Future of the Internet, and we can talk about that, but there's, I think, going to be a real push to try and get more countries to sign on and more civil society groups to be part of it. So there's a full spread of things, domestically and internationally.
Well, I have 2 questions left, so and I know we just have a few minutes. So how about, are you starting to look at 6G yet? Is that on your radar?
Yes, I think. I mean, what? So isn't 5G enough? I mean, we're like, not that it's not. It's, of course it's not enough, but we've got so much. We still have a lot of work to do, right? And we're finishing our deployments in the U.S. and there'll be around the world a lot of work to do. But of course, like, it's never too soon to start thinking about 6G, and we have been hearing about it. We are starting to develop our own national spectrum strategy. Which will look initially at sort of making sure that we've got the pipeline for 5G. But I think our hope is that we are beginning to think about what we are going to need for 6G. And certainly we'll be coming into WRC and looking at our national spectrum strategy with that long game in mind. You know, it's just around the corner, as many of you know, and those of you in industry, I'm sure, are feeling it, right, that we're all thinking about this already. Yeah.
Well, any questions from the audience for Alan?
Stump the assistant secretary. That's my favorite game. You don't have to. That's fine.
Yeah, well,
Evelyn, I'm sure, can ask lots of questions.
Yes,
so we've got one right here.
I do have a question, and that's basically...
We'll repeat it for the mics. Yeah.
So how do you see the ecosystem for... Is it good enough?
Right.
Is there enough choice already? Particularly when you talk about Open RAN.
Yeah.
So what do you think is going to go towards?
Great question. So the question was, how do we see the ecosystem, particularly around Open RAN, and is it big enough? Is it diverse enough? And the short answer is we are going to be greedy here. We want more. And the beauty of Open RAN about openness is that it should inspire more, more entrance, more innovation. That said, I have to say I've been really impressed here. And part of what the excitement of being here has been able to see and kind of kick the tires on some of the vendors and some of the folks who are really engaged in Open RAN. And it is very clear it is real. People are making serious investments. It's a diversity of players, not just a couple. And it's exciting to see the kind of innovation that's already being built into the network. And in some ways, this is what we hoped for in 5G, and now we're starting to see it, but Open is going to unlock it. I do think that if we do this right, 5 years from now, there'll be many more. And there should be many more, because that is, of course, the promise of openness, is that every layer we can build it, that people can join in. And not only that, they can build on top in ways that we have not expected. That is the beauty of open. It's been the history of open, has been the idea that the unexpected will come along, and the things that none of us predicted will be the things that really will be most interesting. So that's the promise, and that's what we're very hopeful for. Yeah.
Well, I think we have time for one more question.
Yeah.
So let's actually dive in a little bit on AI, because I know you're looking at that.
Yeah.
Yes. So what impact do you think it's going to have on this environment, and how is NTIA thinking about it from a policy perspective as well, ensuring that the ecosystem is prepared, ready, has the policies in place to actually take advantage of this new technology, but make sure consumers, privacy, all of those other attributes we talked about are protected as well?
Yeah, you know, it's funny, we've been talking about AI, and particularly around machine learning and the advances, for a number of years now. And then it's these unexpected non-linearities. Things come along like a chat GPT that suddenly captures everybody's imagination, and you start to see the promise. And we are believers in the promise of AI and generative AI. The belief that this is really going to provide new services and new capabilities for people, and make, especially globally, access to information, access to knowledge in a totally different way. That's exciting. We do know that there are also real issues that need to be dealt with. Issues around bias, around privacy, around maybe disinformation, job dislocation, right? We've only just begun to start thinking and to imagine what AI can do. I think that's part of the wonder of ChatGPT, has made us all realize this isn't about driverless cars putting truck drivers out of business. It may be putting lawyers out of business, and maybe that's a fine thing to do. But you know, starting to think about how we put guardrails on, and I think the belief, the understanding that helping people understand, what companies understand what good looks like, and also understand where the guardrails are, actually can help deployment. We've seen that in the past. The U.S. government is trying to do a number of different things. Our colleagues at NIST in the Department of Commerce just released a risk management framework. Many companies supported it, and it gives people a set of tools to understand risk in AI systems. I think it's very, very powerful and a baseline for helping people understand bias, understand risk, and begin to understand where those might be unacceptable. So I think that's a key base piece of this. We've got a consumer bill of rights, AI ethics bill of rights, and that I think is going to also be powerful. We're watching keenly what's happening in Europe, of course, too, with the AI Act. And again, I think this is all about finding that right sweet spot where we're promoting innovation because we know these will powerful tools that will help people, and also putting the right kind of guardrails in place to make sure that we're dealing with the potential harms well, and helping. Honestly, I think that if we do this right, it helps industry and companies and innovators know where to build. The last thing I'll say is there's been I think there's a lot of anxiety around in this space now, understandably. And the one real note of optimism that I have about this is how many great people have really engaged in a way that I don't think we've seen in a lot of technologies in thinking about the societal implications. I don't think there were nearly as many people in the early days of the internet or the early days of social media or the early days of cloud computing thinking about all the consequences of those innovations. But we have a lot of people, I think, whose attention has been captured by the promise of AI and the implications of it. And that gives me some hope that we will figure this out. And we will capture the innovation and also deal with the implications. So
Excellent.
I'll leave you on that note of optimism.
Well, one last speed question. So this is your first MWC in Barcelona.
Yeah.
Are we going to see you back next year? And is it the tapas and sangria bringing you back, or the innovation?
Clearly, the only answer is yes, I will be here. And of course, it's the innovation. And the tapas doesn't hurt either. So nice to see you.
Nice to see you,
yes,
too.
And great
Good
to be
have
here.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Do we have time? Do we have time? Sure, go ahead.
Give us a gist of government view on crypto and blockchain.
The question is a government view of crypto and blockchain, and the answer is that would be that's a great topic for another session.
Yeah. But pro encryption.
We're pro encryption, absolutely. Key tool to. It's probably the best tool we have to make sure that we're protecting ourselves. But that's
another session.
Another session on the other pieces of it.
See us next year.
Thank you all. Great to see you all.
Thank you.